Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Old Men in Chairs. This is normally a music reaction channel, although I sometimes get into other subjects. And today's going to be one of those days. Like millions of people around the world, I watched the full 2-hour plus interview of President Putin of Russia, conducted by Tucker Carlson and aired last night. I know a lot of people probably weren't able to sit through a 2-hour interview, especially because most of the first hour was taken up with the filibuster by Putin, with a long, detailed history of Russia going back to the 10th century, which Tucker attempted to interrupt a number of times and questioned the relevance. Vladimir obviously came with wanting to make some points on that to justify his war in Ukraine. But then when finally he wore down a little bit and Tucker was able to get a few interesting questions in, and I thought this one that he asked about who blew up the Nord Stream pipelines was possibly the highlight of the event. I would urge anybody to watch as much of the interview as they can. There was a lot of playful back and forth. Vladimir was kind of making fun of Tucker a few times, implying really that Tucker might be CIA. This answer to the question, who blew up Nord Stream, and Vladimir says, you did. Well, did he mean you, Tucker? No. Did he mean you, Tucker, as a member of the CIA? Perhaps. Did he mean America in general? Yeah, certainly he meant that. It's really fascinating how little coverage this interview has gotten. I did read a couple mainstream press articles this morning, but no one will touch this interview. They want it to go away. They don't want people to watch it. They don't want people to hear some of the things that Putin had to say. And I think anyone watches it, they will realize why that is.
Who blew up Nord Stream?
You for sure.
I was busy that day. Nate, do you have I did not blow up Nord Stream. Thank you, though.
У вас лично, может быть, есть алиби, у вас лично.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi.
Do you have evidence that NATO or the CIA did it?
Знаете,
You know, I won't get into details, but people always say in such cases, look for someone who is interested. But in this case, we should not only look for someone who is interested, but also for someone who has capabilities. Because there may be many people interested, but not all of them are capable of sinking to the bottom of the Baltic Sea and carrying out this explosion. These two components should be connected: who is interested and who is capable of doing it.
Motive and opportunity, that's how you solve most crimes. And who had the motive, Putin is asking, to cut off Russia's lifeline to Europe? It's a short list of suspects, and the CIA would certainly be at the top. As Seymour Hersh reported a couple years ago, but the United States came out with a cover story, no, it wasn't us, it was the Ukrainians. Well, I don't think the Ukrainians really had the capability to pull something like that off. And another spot in the interview, Putin points out that Tucker had applied to be a member of the CIA, but apparently never joined, didn't get through the application process, according to Tucker. Not everyone's convinced on Tucker that he may not be some sort of controlled opposition. I love the guy, but there is suspicion, especially because his father appeared to be connected to intelligence throughout most of his career and bounced around to a number of very interesting positions. If you do read some of the mainstream coverage of this, of course, they will not mention anything about this segment here. This is a little too close to the bone. What they want to do in covering Tucker is to make him into some sort of right-wing monster. The first thing they'll do is call him the fired Fox News employee. So they hook him up with Fox News, which to all left-wingers out there is just, anathema. And then they try to also connect him with Trump. that he's a friend of Trump's, and also say that he's somehow pro-Russian because he has questions our policy in Ukraine. So these are typical smears that they want to use against Tucker. But I think he did a hell of a job by going over there into the lion's den and asking some questions like this one here, which we don't see our own president standing up to any questions very often. In fact, I guess he went on television last night and made another incoherent rant about he's not really senile, when everybody in the world knows he is. So that's how they want to treat it. And they want to downplay Tucker as if he's not the most successful journalist in the world, and as if this particular interview won't be seen by more people than will watch. You could put all of the network news shows, the cable news networks, the circulations of the big liberal newspapers, New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR. You could put all the people in the last 24 hours who watched those outlets, and they wouldn't come close to what Tucker is reaching. But they want to make it seem like he's a minor player.
These two components should be connected. Who is interested and who is capable of doing it?
But I'm confused. I mean, that's the biggest act of industrial terrorism ever, and it's the largest emission of CO2 in history. Okay, so if you had evidence, and presumably given your security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West, did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States, because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media. The ultimate beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that?
That one sentence. I think that one sentence was the highlight to me of the entire interview. Don't you realize, Tucker, that the Americans control the entire media empire in the world, and that it's very, very difficult to defeat that power? Tucker should know. Why do you think he was fired from Fox News for being counter the narrative? And then he had that little zinger at the end, and of course, they're all representing the interest of American financial companies. In other words, big banks, big investment firms that own them. So that's maybe a little bit of a Marxist critique of capitalism, but nonetheless a lot of truth in that, if you're allowed to say so, in this free country of ours.
Media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that? So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results. It is clear to the whole world what happened, and even American analysts talk about it directly. It's true.
Yes, but here's a question you may be able to answer. You worked in Germany, famously. The Germans clearly know that their NATO partner did this, and it damaged their economy greatly. It may never recover. Why are they being silent about it? That's very confusing to me. Why wouldn't the Germans say something about it?
This also confuses me. But today's German leadership is guided by the interests of the collective West rather than its national interests. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain the logic of their action or inaction. After all, it is not only about Nord Stream 1, which was blown up, and the Nord Stream 2 was damaged, but one pipe is safe and sound, and gas can be supplied to Europe through it. But Germany does not open it. We are ready, please. There's another route through Poland, called Yamal Europe, which also allows for large flow. Poland has closed it, but Poland pecks from the German hand. It receives money from the pan-European funds, and Germany is the main donor to these pan-European funds. Germany feeds Poland to a certain extent.
That must be a Russian proverb. Poland pecks from the German hand like a little chicken getting its feed out of the hand of the Germans. How many people were even aware what he just said, that there's a number of pipelines that could be used to supply Germany and Western Europe, but they're all shut down right now? It's not just the Nord Stream that blew up. There's some they just turned the valve and will not let Russian gas into Europe. That's a little subject that doesn't receive a lot of attention in our press, does it?
Germany feeds Poland to a certain extent, and they closed their route to Germany. Why? I don't understand. Ukraine, to which the Germans supply weapons and give money. Germany is the second sponsor of the United States in terms of financial aid to Ukraine. There are 2 gas routes through Ukraine. They simply closed one route, the Ukrainians. Open the second route and please get gas from Russia. They do not open it. Why don't the Germans say, look guys, we give you money and weapons, open up the valve, please, let the gas from Russia pass through for us. We're buying liquefied gas at exorbitant prices in Europe, which brings the level of our competitiveness and economy in general down to zero. Do you want us to give you money? Let us have the decent existence. Make money for our economy, because this is where the money we give you comes from.
Good question. And the answer might be when he mentioned that they're buying liquid natural gas. Well, we know who's supplying that. That's coming to a great degree out of the United States. So is there a financial interest here? Let's shut off Russian gas, which is cheaper, and make the Europeans buy our gas so we can make more money. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but as Putin implies in this interview, the United States is pretty much controlling not only the media in Western Europe, but a lot of the public policies.
For our economy, because this is where the money we give you comes from. They refuse to do so. Why? Ask them. That is what is like in their heads. Those are highly incompetent people.
Highly incompetent people. I wonder who he's talking about. He could be talking about a lot of different people who are highly incompetent in today's world. But I don't think Vladimir Putin is one of them. Probably one of the biggest comments on the internet from those who actually watched this interview was how articulate this man was. You don't have to agree with everything he's saying. You don't have to believe everything he's saying is true. But he is certainly capable of making a very coherent argument for his country. And in comparison, we have a president who can't string 2 sentences together right now. I mean, that's the common reaction that you hear from those who have been watching this interview. So that's just a little snippet. I hope it whetted your appetite to see more of it. There were some great other moments in it, but I thought this was perhaps the highlight. The issues that are discussed here are the type of issues that the people controlling the American media do not want you to know. We'll see how well I do on YouTube by bringing this to light.